Happy Wednesday, everybody. It's Jim, it's Amadeus, and we're here to chat with you. Amadeus, hope you had a lovely evening. There was a lot of interesting baseball last night, and kudos to the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, the Rangers got it done in 3 games. Good for them. The Orioles, it really makes you think about these 3 games, best of 3 game series,
hmm
best of 5 game series, because it's like you got a 100+ win team, and then just 3 games and you're out.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, the um, the Rangers beat the Rays and the Orioles. That's 200 wins between the two teams, and I mean, you try to figure out what happens, right? How do they switch it on and start to get hot at the right time? And you look at that particular team and you have to say, you know what? It's got to be Bruce Bochy. I mean, they brought him in. Bochy's history is that he has taken wild card teams to the World Series and won with them. And that's, his stock and trade. And I think from what I've heard and what I've seen, the Rangers are playing just very loose. I mean, they've always been a streaky team all season. They've been a streaky team, but if you're gonna have a streak, this would be the time to have it.
Yeah, they're definitely killing it right now, and they're the team to beat in the AL, in my opinion. It doesn't really matter who gets through this Twins Astros series because the Rangers, they're the team right now.
Corey Seager, I firmly believe that you could roll the ball on the ground to Corey Seager and hit it out of the park. At this point, he's just on a level all of his very own at the moment, and
Yeah, he's like one of those guys that can hit the driver off the deck on the
right,
golf
yeah,
course.
right. Oh man, yeah, he's and yesterday, I think it was, I'm not mistaken. I think I'm not mistaken. He actually got on base 5 times in that game against the Orioles, which was a record. So not too shabby in that regard. So yeah, he was balling out, and it was one of those things. And you know, Houston won, and so tonight. I'm not Houston. I'm sorry. We had Texas playing last night. Texas won, and George W. Bush was sitting in the crowd, the former owner of the team, and enjoying his popcorn and watching his team play baseball. So, wasn't a bad night for the Bush family. But now today we have three. The Braves and the Phils. That's a 5 o'clock start on FS1. Both that's a series tied at 1. The Twins should be. They actually are playing somebody. I must have accidentally not put in the fact that they're playing Houston. It's a 7 p.m. game on TBS and Max. And then you go back to FS1 at 9 because the D-backs and the Dodgers. That's a 2-0 game there. So 1-1 on the Houston Twins game, and 1-1 on the Braves Phillies, and 2-0 on the Dodgers and D-backs. So that's tonight on your Major League Baseball scorecard. Um, I don't know. I think getting to Philly, if I the way they lost in Atlanta, if that had been like game one, and then they had to turn around and go back and play that today, and after that kind of demoralizing loss, I would think that that would be a problem for the Phillies. However, they now are playing at home, and that Citizens Bank Park can be a very uncomfortable place to play if you are not um, the the home team. But that being said, the Braves, are not normal. They've won more baseball games than anybody else in baseball, so they have been in just about every situation you can have, and so I think it's going to be a very entertaining, as all these games have been with the Braves and the Phils. another entertaining game. I don't expect Bryce Harper to have problems on the bases tonight. I think he will not be as aggressive as he normally is.
Yeah, I think this is one of those games where really, obviously, it could go either way, but
Sure.
it with the momentum factor, it could go either way with that last game,
Mm-hmm.
the way that game ended, because now
Mm-hmm.
and they've had a day to regroup
Mm-hmm.
from that. They can just say, let's move forward, try to win the next two at
Mm-hmm.
home. But also, I think it actually kind of helps the Braves out a bit more because they could have been down two
Mm-hmm.
nothing in
Sure.
that series after two games at home, and
Mm-hmm.
they escaped with the win. And that could be a big momentum boost going into
Sure.
Philadelphia now for them. They could have the confidence
Mm-hmm.
behind them. And, obviously, as you said, they won the most games in the league this year. They also had the best offense. They're the
Mm-hmm.
only team with an OPS above 800. So this is, this is a very good Braves team. And you're getting them at plus money tonight. I actually kind of like the Braves in Philadelphia tonight as an underdog.
Wow. So the Braves are an underdog, even though they won the last game.
Yeah, it's basically it's about a minus 125 for the
Mm-hmm.
Phillies, plus 105 for the Braves. So it's
Okay.
close to a pick 'em, but they're giving a slight edge to the home team here.
Mm-hmm.
But Nola on the mound. Obviously, he was great in the wild card round, but we saw how he was during the season,
Mm-hmm.
playing against the best team in baseball. They
Mm-hmm.
could easily get to Nola here. Bryce Elder's on the mound for the Braves as well, and he's been a
Mm-hmm.
stud all year. So yeah, I kind of like the Braves tonight at the plus money.
Well, that's why you do that. You're the guru on the stats in that situation. I think it's going to be a very entertaining game. They they don't like each other. It makes it even better. So we shall see what we shall see tonight.
And that is the only series tonight in the MLB
Right.
that is going to have another game for sure, no matter
Right.
what happens, because the
Right.
Astros could end the series
Uh
tonight,
huh.
and the Diamondbacks could surprisingly end the series with the Dodgers.
Oh yeah. That's well, the Dodgers have to win three straight. Now they've done it. I think it was 12, 7 or 8 times this year. So they've swept, but I don't know. Going out to the desert to play, knowing you have, I mean, it's not a okay. What happens if we take 2 out of 3? You can't. You got to win. You got to win those games out in the desert tonight. You got to win those. You know, that situation. Otherwise, you're going back to Los Angeles, um, on a 45-minute flight, and that'll be your
And not
season.
for game five.
All right, for golf, and the off season. Let's take a look at what we've got here tonight in college football. It's UTEP and FIU. That's a 7 p.m. kick on ESPN2. Sam Houston and New Mexico State. That's a 9 p.m. on CBS Sportsnet. So a couple of college football games tonight of interest.
Yeah, that good old Conference USA. Very
Mm-hmm.
interesting games here, just because UTEP opened as a 2.5 point favorite on Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
and now the line is -3 for FIU.
Whoa,
So complete, 5.5 point
a
swing
flip.
on that one. Yeah, so definitely. And FIU, they're coming off a bad loss to New Mexico State, who hasn't
Mm-hmm.
been great. And then yeah, this Sam Houston New Mexico State game is going
Mm-hmm.
to be very interesting because obviously Sam Houston hasn't won a game this year. They're making the jump from the FCS, but
Mm-hmm.
they had a very tough schedule to start the season. Like they
Sure.
played Air Force, BYU.
Mm-hmm.
I think Arkansas might have been one of the teams they played as well.
Right.
Actually, no, they didn't play Arkansas, but yeah, they've played a lot better in their last two games for sure since hitting the conference schedule. They had the one
Mm-hmm.
game at home where they almost beat Jacksonville State. Obviously, Jacksonville State came back for the comeback win in
The last
overtime
minute.
there.
Yeah.
But yeah, then they went up against Liberty, who looks like the best team in the conference, and that
Right.
was on the road, and they only lost 21-16, and they were even driving to win that game
Mm-hmm.
in the final few seconds there. So Sam Houston's a sneaky team. New Mexico State's not that great. This is another one where I think it opened up at 6.5 for New
Mm-hmm.
Mexico State, and it's down to 3.5 now. So
Oof.
a lot
That's
of
a
money
big
has come
move.
in on Sam Houston throughout the week.
There you go. All right. Well, that's we'll have plenty more tomorrow night. Of course, is the NFL and also usually some good college. And now, on to the NBA tonight. The Celtics are at the Sixers. That's a 7 o'clock start. Kings at Sun. That's a 10 p.m. start. Both of those games can be seen on NBA TV. Or if you happen to be locally, obviously it can be seen on your local station. So there you go. Kings and Suns, Celtics and Sixers. The NBA is back. Who is the team that um, I used to, we used to be able to say Vegas, but now it's really a lot of different places. But we'll use Vegas for the time being. Who do the odds makers favor to win the NBA or to end up in the finals this year?
Oh, it's still Vegas, Jim. No
Okay,
matter
just
no matter
checking.
what, doesn't matter. It's always Vegas setting
Yep.
those lines. But yeah, the Milwaukee Bucks after that Damian Lillard
Mm-hmm.
trade are the plus 350 favorite to win this year. And how can they not be? Their team looks absolutely stacked now after that trade.
Right. They were good before it.
Yeah, they were one of the best teams in the East, and now
Right.
you just added a shoulder rest for Giannis there,
Right.
and yeah, you're gonna have a very very strong team.
Yeah, it's like, don't worry about us. We're good. Celtics and Sixers, Kings and Suns. Those games are both. You can watch them tonight on NBA TV. So there you go. We're not going to get into it because there's just too many. But there is a full set of games in the NHL, and I was more than happy to type it twice. You can watch those games on. There's some games that will be on TNT, some CBS. I'm sorry. Basketball's on TNT. TBS has some of the NHL games, and so does ESPN. ESPN has the volume of tonight's games are on ESPN, ESPN Plus, and also as I said, some will be on TBS and the NHL network. So you'll be able to find games if you're a hockey fan tonight. Not a problem. You'll get some games. And as I said, it's a full slate of games, so it's not just a few, but a bunch. Okay. WNBA Finals, the Aces and Liberty, ESPN tonight, 9 p.m. So you got the WNBA going on tonight as well. So there you go, boys and girls. Little look at what's going on. For those of you wondering where the MLS is, because it is Wednesday, the MLS is on their break, and that leads me to you, sir. What are we looking at today and over the next couple of days in soccer that has your interest?
Yeah, so nothing much going on today unless you're into
Mm-hmm.
the women's soccer. We got Women's Champions League, but that
Mm-hmm.
one's going live right now. There's only one game later, Glasgow
Mm-hmm.
City and SK Brom. But yeah, other than that, for the men's soccer, it's an international break right now. So they played on the weekend. They've had
Mm-hmm.
these last few days to fly back to their nations if they are playing for the national teams, and that'll be
Mm-hmm.
kicking off tomorrow. All through. There's usually each team plays about 2 games, so it
Mm-hmm.
lasts a bit over a week. I would say the international break. Let's see here. I think the last day um, might actually be two or might be next Thursday. We'll have to see. It
Mm-hmm.
goes for the next week and a bit. But yeah, so it kicks off tomorrow. We got the first match noon Eastern time, Latvia and Armenia, and then followed by a whole full slate at 2:45. Probably the big match tomorrow is Croatia and Turkey. Also, Spain and Scotland is going to be a good one.
Mm-hmm.
So Scotland actually leads that group right now. Scotland did beat Spain a few months ago in Scotland, and that was a shock. That's the whole reason why I've been calling them Scotchentina, because Scotland in general has just been on a tear in international play. It seems
Mm-hmm.
that every team, they've been on this huge win streak, and they seem to clobber every team they play. So now they have to travel to Spain. Spain looked very good in the September international break.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll definitely be a match to catch. If you're not interested in Croatia, Turkey, definitely go watch Spain and Scotland tomorrow. That would be a
Mm-hmm.
good one.
There you go. Um, Couple of we'll get into some headlines here. The Associated Press put out their mid-season college football rankings and things, and really what it ended up being was a tribute to the Pac-12. Um, Pac-12 was the top conference. Um, Washington State, the surprise team, and not might be a surprise to some. They said that the steal, so to speak, if you will, of the portal this mid season was Sidor Sanders and his ability to play quarterback at at Colorado. So there you go. Those are some of the interesting things on this AP side.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with the Pac-12, being the best.
Mm-hmm.
Washington State, a huge surprise. Heck, we could even throw USC, biggest disappointment, in there. So
Mm-hmm.
it's going
Right.
to be all Pac-12, 100%.
Yep. And with regard to a couple of other quick headlines, Bill Belichick comes to his press conference this week and says Mac Jones will remain the Patriots' starting quarterback. Okay,
So they want Caleb Williams next year, clearly,
clearly, yeah, he'll be there.
because that's going to be the only result if you keep Mac Jones as starting quarterback for the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe Bill O'Brien was asked about it too, and his response when they asked him, "Do you think Mac Jones will be starting this week?" His response was, "There's no time for mental breaks. It's nothing to do with the mental break. He's just not the guy."
Now there you go. Sometimes being honest can cost you a job, so be very careful in that. What interesting topic on Fox Sports, and that is the number one pick, of course, is Bryce Young, and he's having his problems, but of course he's in Carolina. But the number two pick, C.J. Stroud, is having some good days in Texas, so in Houston. So from that standpoint, I don't know that that's a fair comparison because Carolina's a god awful team, and Houston is a much better team than they are. So the concept of C.J. Stroud um, succeeding over Bryce Young, it's not really a fair comparison because of the offenses that they have and the offensive weapons that they have, or they don't have, I guess would be a better way of putting it.
Yeah, I would say yes and no to that, just
Mm-hmm.
because I agree with you. It's not fair to place
Mm-hmm.
it solely on Bryce, because obviously you're talking about probably
Mm-hmm.
the worst roster in the NFL. They're the only winless team right
Right.
now. Houston doesn't have a great roster, I
Right.
don't think. I would still consider them, bottom third of the NFL,
Right.
maybe even bottom five. But I agree with you as well, where they definitely have more weapons. Obviously, they
Mm-hmm.
have stud John Mechie out of
Mm-hmm.
Alabama there. So they do have some weapons for
Mm-hmm.
Stroud to use, and I think the coach is also a lot better.
Sure.
D'Amico Ryans, obviously, he's got that defense playing
Mm-hmm.
very well. Frank Reich, he struggled for years at Indianapolis. Obviously, he didn't really have a quarterback, but you could make the argument that he didn't really do anything to fix that. He thought bringing in Matt Ryan for that 1 year was a good idea. They tried multiple different things, nothing really stuck there.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, though, to go with what they're saying about CJ Stroud, I will say he does look a lot better in the
Mm-hmm.
offense. CJ Stroud looks more ready for the NFL than Bryce
Mm-hmm.
Young. Bryce Young kind of looks a little bit
Deer
like
in
a
the
deer in
headlights, huh?
headlights. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Looks like a little scared out there. Now that could change, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's
Sure.
obviously he's got to grow into the professional level,
Mm-hmm.
but he might just be one of those quarterbacks. And I think we've had this conversation before where,
Mm-hmm.
not everybody is a throw 'em to the wolves kind of quarterback.
Sure.
And obviously, CJ Stroud is
Mm-hmm.
ready. He's from day one to play in the
Mm-hmm.
NFL as it looks like. But, Bryce Young might need to sit a year. Maybe
Right.
he would benefit from sitting behind Andy Dalton this year and
Mm-hmm.
letting Dalton finish out the season, because you still have other guys on the team that want to win games.
Sure.
And the one game they did have Dalton in there when Young was injured, the offense moved the ball well. They scored
Mm-hmm.
27 points in that
Right.
game, and it was, they still lost by 10 points, but it was a start for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the keys that you have to look at, right? And I think that from C.J. Stroud's standpoint, he also has a pretty decent defense down there in Houston, and I think from Bryce's standpoint, to your point, sometimes sitting on the bench and looking at the game, you get an opportunity to observe some of the things where you can look and go, oh man, I see where I made that mistake. I watched, of course, you watch films, but it's not like you're watching somebody else play your position. And I think that's where it helps from that standpoint. And Andy Dalton Andy Dalton is a good person to mentor a Bryce Young. Now, one thing I will say, and that is against Frank Wright. I mean, look, Frank has been in the game for quite a while, and I do believe that the new types of offenses that are being run are not offenses that Frank Wright even has a clue how it should be run. And that's no shade on him. He's been successful, and he has earned his ability to be where he needs to be. But I do think the game might very well have passed him by when it comes to his type of offense, because the success he had when he was coaching down in Houston was he hired Kyle Shanahan to be his offensive coordinator, and at that time Kyle was the youngest OC in the NFL, and he turned that around for Frank, who was at one point the guru who behind the top teams in football. But sometimes times pass, as you say, and we'll see. I hope for Bryce that he gets the opportunity to watch and comes out and plays better. And we'll see if CJ, as you say, some of these guys are just born leaders. He was at Ohio State. Not a lot of Ohio State quarterbacks have that success when they come right out of college, but it certainly looks like C.J. Stroud is not having as many issues as some of the others have had. The Yankees, Mr. Steinbrenner, okay, not George, because George would have fired everybody at this point, says it's time for some challenges and some changes. And then the reporter asked, where would the changes be? And he said, I would not rule out anything or everything. So, if you are either, if you're someone who's a Yankee fan and you're either Brian Cashman or you're Mr. Boone, I wouldn't send my laundry out for very long, because it's quite possible you're not going to be there to retrieve it. It's going to be an interesting off season for the Yankees.
Yeah, definitely. This has been a long time coming, for sure. So it wouldn't shock me at all if both Cashman and Boone get the boot this off season.
Yep. Quick update on some injuries. Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson is on the injured reserve list. He will probably miss at least 4 weeks. My guess is it's longer than that, but we'll find out. But at this point in time, looks like that's going to happen for Anthony Richardson being put on the shelf for the next at least 4 weeks. So there's that.
And you know what, Jim?
What's that?
It doesn't really matter to the Colts because they got Gardner Minshew just slinging touchdowns down there.
Well, there you go. I mean, you just brought up Andy Dalton. Gardner Minshew sitting there, waiting for his, next opportunity. So there's nothing wrong with that. That we're seeing this come about, and it's going to be an interesting situation at the bottom of the table, as from using a soccer term, how these 4 or 5 teams end, and how these 4 or 5 teams, approach the draft.
Yeah, definitely. It's gonna be something to watch this season for sure.
Yeah, and I think everybody's excited about that.
Oh yeah, and you know what? Just speaking of Anthony Richardson, he was a guy too, kind of like C.J. Stroud, who was looking like the best of the rookie
Mm-hmm.
class for quarterbacks this year. So
Mm-hmm.
just going back to that idea that some guys can get thrown into the fire,
Mm-hmm.
others can't. And like, look at the best quarterbacks in the league. Like, okay, so Joe Burrow was a guy who was thrown to the fire, but then he tore his ACL. So you can make the argument that he ended up
Mm-hmm.
sitting out a year and watching anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Mahomes, we know he sat behind Alex Smith when he
Sure.
first came into the league. So yeah, you look at a lot of these younger quarterbacks who are lighting the league up.
Mm-hmm.
Even Lamar Jackson. Now, obviously, he usurped Joe
Mm-hmm.
Flacco pretty quickly there, but yeah, a lot of these younger quarterbacks who are lighting it up in the league,
Mm-hmm.
these were guys who sat at least a year. Even Tua was like they couldn't decide if they wanted to start him or not in
Right.
that
Right.
first year.
Well, look at our team, the 49ers, a team that we've been all on, right? Brock Purdy, sat and watched other people play, and for him, it was just a matter of survival because they just quarterbacks started dropping like flies in San Francisco, and suddenly the next man up, he got the ball and he never gave it back. So sometimes that sometimes as you say, it's like in some regards to what you were talking about with the Ravens with Lamar. It didn't. I mean, he got in there because of an injury to Joe Flacco. So, and then he started playing so well that they could do without Joe Flacco. So, he was ready when the opportunity came, but he certainly benefited by watching the game and watching Flacco and how the team played. So that was a definite help to him. Um, Yankees former player and Hall of Famer Derek Jeter made a little noise in New York this weekend, where he said that he doesn't see the Yankees signing Mr. Ohtani. You and I think that he's going to stay on the West Coast, and so does Derek Jeter. So he must be
I mean, like,
watching us.
what's wrong with that state? What, I guess you made Yankee fans mad, but come
Oh
on.
yeah.
We
Well, I
we
mean, he is
we,
Mr.
we
Yankee right now. He's the
Yeah, but we traded Otani to like 8 different teams
none of them
before
were
the
the Yankees.
deadline, and yeah, none of them were the Yankees. Exactly.
Yep. And we didn't. We said, if we're going to sign in the offseason, not going to be with the Yankees. So
If he goes to the East, it's going to be the Rays on a rental, and that
yeah.
didn't happen.
And no, 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 or even the Orioles on a rental. But the one thing that I think was interesting about all of this is that you know we are just on the precipice of the winter, and this is going to be a very bizarre winter of how the super teams who have spent a lot of money but have gotten they're not in the playoffs.
Yeah, 100%.
And where does that go? Where does where? I mean, you have to look at this and say, all right, look, we spent all this money. The players that we have on our team, are they really the players that are going to get us past them? What's keeping Boston? What's keeping New York from what they need? I noticed that yesterday on one of the broadcasts, they asked Andrew Friedman, who's the president of the Dodgers, if he was sorry that they let Corey Seager go, and he said, look, there's only so much money to go around. He said, we want to come back year in and year out. If we start making massive long-term signing contracts, he goes that there are times then you have to go you may have bad contracts that you can't get rid of, and we just don't believe in that kind of stuff. So he said, look, I wish Corey all the best, and certainly he's playing fantastic in Texas, But at the end of the day, even the good teams, if you're wise, should spend, you know, judiciously. And I think that's where the Yankees and Red Sox have been beaten by the Dodgers and the Braves, for that matter, is that they haven't necessarily spent their money wisely you know, on a team as opposed to a single player.
Definitely has been an issue for them, obviously. But if you look at some of the biggest payrolls in baseball, the Yankees, the Mets, both those teams missed the playoffs. You
Mm-hmm.
have the Dodgers, who are going to be out really in the second round, but for them, they didn't play in the first round. So for
Mm-hmm.
them, it's their first round of the playoffs, and then
Right.
they're on the verge of getting swept. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, definitely in these organizations, something's got to change for sure, because even though the Dodgers they're doing it better than the Yankees and
Right.
Red Sox, because they've obviously had that consistency. But even then, the Dodgers, they're a team for a while there. It felt like they were in the World Series every year, but they only came out with like one in
Right.
that 5 year span.
Well, that was the same. I mean, the Braves went 14 years of making the playoffs and not winning a World Series, and they're fighting for their lives against the Phils, and they lost last year. But I think the interesting point, and maybe this is the point Friedman was trying to make, I don't know, was that teams like Atlanta and Los Angeles develop players on their own. And the Red Sox and the Yankees farm systems have not turned out the kind of kids that the Braves and the Dodgers seem to be able to turn out on a regular basis. And I think that's where the money concern comes, where you're like, okay, why are we spending all this money and not getting the return that these other folks are getting? And that's you're just gonna have to go inside and take a deep, hard look at yourself in that regard.
I think it's more than just a development issue too,
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, there hasn't been a lot of like stars coming out of those farm systems. But if over the last few years, if you look, the Yankees, every time they have a chance to get like a big name player in the
Mm-hmm.
league and make a trade, they're trading away half the farm system. Like last year,
Right.
they traded away that kid JP Sears to
Mm-hmm.
Oakland, and who'd they get? Frankie Montas, who didn't
Yeah.
even like pitch a single game this year for them,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much.
Right.
So yeah, definitely development issues, and just the few pieces we have, let's just trade them away before they're even worth anything, or
Mm-hmm.
even developed to their fullest potential.
Here's one that I think is interesting, and this one is CBS Sports. CBS Sports note, and that is that the window's closing for the Miami Heat to win a title, and I wouldn't, I wouldn't argue with that point. I mean, there's just only so much Jimmy Butler can do.
Probably crack open by now,
Yeah.
because some strong team. Obviously, the Bucks are the team to beat in the East
Mm-hmm.
now, but you still have the Celtics there, who I
Mm-hmm.
think, didn't they make a trade for Drew Holiday after the
Right.
Bucks traded him away? So, but then again, I didn't really understand the Marcus Smart
Yeah.
getting rid of him for who did they bring? Was it Porzingis? I
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
yes, injury prone defender for a solid defender. I don't know. I thought that was a downgrade in my opinion.
I think you're right on that. Um, okay, provocative headlines here. The University of Kentucky's Mike Stoops on the University of Georgia, which he plays against his Kentucky Wildcats play this week. UGA can't be denied that UGA is a good football team, and they bought some pretty damn good players. Using the term bought, okay? I don't know what Mike Stoops is thinking. Okay, you're Kentucky. You're getting ready to face the number one team, in the conference and in the country, at least on in the minds of some people. Uh, what are you doing? I mean, why are you giving them some other reason to beat you other than they want to?
Yeah, I don't know. We could talk for hours on how some of these college football coaches are just
Open
clowns
their
with the
mouth
things
and
they
shut
say.
up. Here's one for you. Now, this. It's not new to us, and it's not provocative to us because this is an Amadeus special. CBS Sports had to sit down with Robert Kraft about what's the future of this team, meaning his own New England Patriots. Kraft said, specifically when asked, I would never rule out firing Bill Belichick.
That's a lie. He's totally just waiting for him to like break
Well,
the record
he wants
here.
him to retire. He doesn't want to fire him because you have to fire him. He pays him.
Ah, yeah, of course, the good old contract,
Right.
fine prints.
Buy
But
me out. Yeah.
you know what? I don't know. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's Bill Belichick or Robert Kraft. Obviously, there's some big problems over in New England right now, starting with Mac Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I said, Bailey Zappi would be my starting quarterback. I don't think they're a good team. I don't think they really
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of talent. Um, but we'll see. New England's a team to watch. I think. Who do they play this week?
I'm sorry?
I'm told. I'm just checking who they play this week because I think they were like another short underdog. They're a 3-point underdog in Las Vegas this week.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be interesting because the only way they're covering that is if Las Vegas pulls off another win where they only score 17 points because both their wins this year have been wins where they scored 17 points.
Okay, here's some stuff that is quite interesting. Um, it's five. We're week. We're getting ready for week 6 of the NFL season, and you know it doesn't happen often, but there is an in-season trade deadline, and that it comes October 31st on Halloween, right? So, you know, you don't see it happen where players are moved or major players are moved in the trade deadline, so to speak. I mean, it's usually baseball and hockey and NBA because the seasons are so long. When you have a 17 game season, you don't normally see it. But that being said, the Vikings are angling quarterback Kirk Cousins out there as a potential trade partner, looking for a potential trade partner, I should say. Um, you know, we don't know where he would go, but he's out there. The suitor for him, according to CBS, is possibly the New York Jets. I don't know how that fit would work, but there you
That's
go.
that's a problem though. You have a veteran quarterback that's coming back
Hmm.
next year. You're not going to bring another veteran quarterback in Kirk Cousins. That
No, not when you have to pay as much as you're going to pay Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, from a Jets standpoint, that would make no sense. If you're making a run at Kirk Cousins, it's because you
Right.
don't want to draft a young quarterback, but what you
Hmm.
have isn't cutting it. What team would make a run for him is the question.
I'm trying to think of who needs a quarterback that is, who's in the quote unquote in the race, right?
The Titans, maybe.
Well, they got, ironically, the next person on the list is Ryan Tannehill, who is in Tennessee.
There's a reason for that. The Tennessee has talent on the offense. They
They
just
do.
don't have a quarterback. You know what might be the trade for Kirk Cousins?
What's that?
Maybe we were wrong about Jimmy G because I don't know that offense still doesn't look great.
Are
And
you
if you
talking?
bring
So
in,
Oakland. I mean, not Oakland. I'm sorry, Vegas.
yeah, Vegas could be a team. I mean, they're only 2-3 right now, so you can
Hmm.
still could still save the season a bit. You have Devontae Adams there,
Yeah.
obviously. Yeah, I don't know about Jimmy G because I look at the 49ers offense in the first half of the season last
Mm-hmm.
year. They were winning games, but they were like struggling to score over 20 points. Then you look at the two wins the Raiders have this year, and again, 17-16 and 17-13. So it seems to be this bubble where like Jimmy G can win games, but he can't score more than 20 points in these wins.
Right.
And if that's going to be the case, then yeah, the Raiders might need an upgrade at this point.
Well, according to CBS, the two likely homes for him are the Jets. Okay, so basically, if they pass on Kirk Cousins and take your advice, it would be for Ryan Tannehill, or the Falcons to help boister up, that whole situation down there. I don't know I don't know what that would be worth. Okay, here's one for you. Derrick Henry. Woof, man,
Well, I mean, that's the Titans season right there if
yeah,
they're giving up Derrick Henry.
yeah, you definitely so. The potential suitors for him, number one on the list, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
They desperately need a run game.
Yeah,
I would love that move. If
that would be a
Derrick
move.
Henry goes to Tampa Bay Bucks, then I might as well go cash my to win the division ticket right now because there's no way with that kind of run
yeah,
game.
in your jersey, your number 8 jersey from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield. So
Yeah, never mind. We might have to get a Derrick Henry one.
well, yeah, assuming they have one there quickly enough. No, that would be a brilliant move. You
Yeah.
the amount of what would it take to get him? I guess it wouldn't. I bet you it wouldn't be. It's just that the Titans are not expecting an auction type situation for him, because they say he's a well-worn back. Well, they said the same thing about, you know, playoff Lenny when he went there. So, well, his legs are bad, and this is going to be a problem for him. And playoff Lenny turned out to be playoff Lenny. So that was good. Oh, look, if I could get Derrick Henry for a couple of a 3 and a 5 or draft choices, I'd make that trade in a heartbeat.
Yeah. One team I think would be a good fit for him just because they need a running back desperately. It's the LA Rams, but they mortgaged the future to win that Super Bowl.
They
so
did.
I don't know how much draft capital they're dealing with to make a trade, right? They'd probably be willing to spend the money on Henry. That's not an issue to me. To
Right.
me, it's actually getting the capital to make a trade with the Titans.
Yeah, I would I would throw Pittsburgh in that mix as well.
Yeah, Najee Harris, I've talked about this before, how he's not a between the tackles kind of
Right.
guy.
If you had a Derrick Henry, I think Najee Harris would be much better. And you would have two backs there that would give you kind of a 49er-esque, ability. And it would make life a lot easier on Kenny Pickett. But we'll see.
And look at that division, the Browns and the Ravens. You have two heavy running teams.
Right.
You need some kind of running game in that division for sure. Look at how much the Bengals struggle when Joe Mixon can't get going.
Right, 100%. Well, we spoke of the Raiders, and the Raiders are listening to. That doesn't mean that they're going to do it, but they're
Don't tell me
listening
it's Devontae.
It's Devontae Adams.
Well, I knew that was going to be a failure because he left Green Bay not really because of the money. He left to go play with his college quarterback, his friend, and
His
then
pal.
after he gets there for a year, you lure him into a contract extension and then say, "We're getting rid of your friend, by the way."
Yeah,
I hope you're happy being locked in now.
stay here. Now, the potential suitors, I find there's 3 of them actually. The potential suitors I find to be very odd. The number 1 suitor, they say, would be the New England Patriots. Now he'd be a fool to go and play in New England.
Yeah.
Okay. The number 2 one on the list is the Ravens. That makes sense, given the fact that they have a bunch of board-handed receivers. And then the Texans. So giving C.J. Stroud another weapon there down in Texas.
Yeah, but let's be real. There's if Devontae Adams is up for grabs,
Mm-hmm.
and you're telling me there's a wide receiver on the market.
Mm-hmm.
The Miami Dolphins are going to go for it. You don't even need to think twice. Okay,
Right.
the Dolphins know we don't have defense, so let's just stock up on wide
We're gonna
receivers.
roll. Yeah, we're gonna roll,
Weren't they the
roll,
team
roll.
that just made a trade for Van Jefferson as
Yeah.
well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Didn't I understood getting rid of Jefferson because obviously
Mm-hmm.
Cup is back. You have the
Right.
Puka Nakua and Tutu Atwell who
Right.
are destroying it. But I didn't understand again the Dolphins going for a wide receiver when defense is their issue. But
Yep. You do what you got to do, right? The
I don't know, maybe they
Broncos.
think they can score 80 points in every game.
The Broncos are willing to part with wide receiver Cortland Sutton. Browns, Cowboys, Texans are on the list of people talking to them about him.
Now Broncos. Now that's a team for Kirk Cousins.
Oh, yeah.
That's a team right there.
We got defense.
Do a Russell Kirk swap. Send
Right.
Russell to Minnesota, send Kirk to Denver, and see how
it works.
Let's
right.
just watch that unravel.
Right. That would be. I'd pay to watch that mess. The Vikings linebacker Danielle Harper. Potential suitors: the Buccaneers, the Chiefs, and the Jaguars. So there you go. Pretty interesting situation there. He's a good linebacker, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, definitely.
So he's gonna command some interesting. He's not that's not gonna be a Patriots move. That's gonna be some contender saying, you know what, I need a guy who can help me at linebacker to bolster that defense to get us over the hump and get us into the playoffs. And that's why we see that the potential suitors are the Buccaneers, the Chiefs, and the Jaguars. All potential playoff teams. So, there you go. Uh-oh. Cardinal alert. Cardinal alert. Cardinals are dangling Buda Baker.
Oh no, not him. Anybody but him. Literally the last 5 years has been like trading away every player I like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, remember when they cut Michael Floyd, I remember when they got rid of Tyrann Mathieu, Patrick Peterson left. And a lot of it is just the players leaving because the Cardinals are such a disaster organization. Like who the hell would even want to stay there and play for them?
Yeah, they're paying to get out, yes.
Yeah, and this is what I mean. I've watched Buda Baker from his rookie season.
Right.
He was phenomenal. He came out of nowhere. He's this tiny guy. He's tackling guys twice the size of him.
Right.
Ridiculous safety. And now he wants to leave. Does it surprise me? No. Does it piss me off? Yes.
Well, okay. Again, there's 3 suitors for him. Tell me which one you would like to see him. And by the way, all 3 of these are playoff teams. Eagles, Jags, Lions.
Anything but the Eagles.
Okay.
But
okay.
Send him to
he would
Lions.
play. He would be fine on either of those 2 teams, the Jags or the Lions.
Yeah, I think the Jags is probably the better fit, but
probably.
But hey, send him to the Lions. I don't care as long as the Eagles don't go.
Lions and Tigers and Bears. Oh my. Yeah. It's going to be an interesting situation. By the way, isn't we were talking about the Patriots? Don't they play the who do they play this week?
Play the Raiders.
The Raiders. Okay, so that's not a bad situation for them. But yeah, I mean as I said before, there's not a lot of trades during the young season in that regard. But I mean during the regular season in the NFL, but any one of those might be fun to watch and see how that comes out. Let's see one more quick fun one. and then we'll move on out here. This is CBS's grading of the top young quarterbacks and how well they're doing. They have Bryce Young. They say that basically the summary of Bryce Young is he showed some signs of late life in garbage time and lost to the Lions for the first 3 quarters. It was again a rough sledding for the number overall number one overall pick. His major issues are dealing with pressure, and that's an issue that he has not yet gotten to master. With due respect to whoever wrote this, and by the way, they graded him out as a C minus. How many quarterbacks do deal well with pressure? I mean, that's kind of like
Patrick Mahomes. That's about it.
yeah.
It's the only
All
player
right,
you don't blitz in the league. But
can he?
that sentence in itself is a bit of an oxymoron.
Yeah, yeah.
To show some signs of life in
Mhm,
garbage time, he's showing
mhm,
signs of life because it's garbage time.
mhm.
It's not that he's looked better at the end of the game. No, he's looking better because the other team has called off the dogs.
Usually, yeah. Okay. They next one up, Kenny Pickett gets a C as well. The Steelers' offense did enough to win a defensive slugfest this past week against the Ravens. Pickett was hardly impressive. We didn't say he was. The offense became a check down or a back shoulder pass down for for Pickens. Ironically, the last throw of the game and the last throw of the day for Pittsburgh was to give them the lead, the late lead, and the opportunity to move forward. So far, uh, a fair amount of misses from a former first round pick. So they're grading him as a C. Okay. Desmond Ritter, want to guess his grade before we get started?
I mean, everybody hates on him, so probably like a D minus.
B plus.
But yeah, I saw some good things out of him against Houston. Like
They said quite easily quite easily, Desmond Ritter has stepped up to become a pro style quarterback. He has some solid talent around him and giving him a better opportunity to succeed. However, he still needs to be better at reading defenses and getting solid command of the offense, the entire playbook. So, Sam Howell of the Commanders, somebody I've seen play more than I particularly care to, he also gets a B. And I'll say this for Sam: Sam can throw the football. He's not a runner. He's a old school pocket passer. His receivers are pretty decent, but he has no offensive line. Nobody in this league has been sacked more than than Howell, who had a great line for it. They said to him, "What exactly are does what's it like to be the quarterback who gets sacked the most in the NFL?" And he said, "I'm preparing for my next job." And they said, "What's that?" And he goes, "I'm going to be a lawn specialist." He says, "I've seen enough grass on on from all parts of the country. I can be an expert on it." So at least he's got a sense of humor. So probably gets a B for a sense of humor. Now, if this guy doesn't get it, a B plus for Brock Purdy, what more do you want this guy to do? Okay, I'm sorry.
he's an A. Brock Purdy's got a. How is he not an A?
That's my.
Don't tell me. Don't tell
This
me
is a
CJ
guy.
Stroud's an A because I'm just gonna roll my eyes at that.
How do you give a guy who was clearly Mr. Irrelevant? We talked about yesterday how Larry Macchialato was able to call Kyle Shanahan and say, "This kid will work in your offense." And I don't think he meant it literally the first year that he's there, but okay, fine. So he's the last draft choice in the entire draft. He's leading the best team in football, and he gets a B plus. I mean, come on, boys and girls.
Yeah,
And
I don't know who wrote this article.
B plus also, by the way, for C.J. Stroud. No, no, no.
Okay,
Don't,
as long as there's
get,
no A's. Don't tell me.
Get away from me with this.
There better not
B,
be an A.
There's a B plus for Richardson, Anthony Richardson, and that's it. So there's grading your young
the
quarterback.
article writer is just one of those teachers where nobody gets an A.
Nobody gets an A.
Perfect.
So everybody here, well, everybody there got a passing grade. I mean, basically, a C's a passing grade. So
Okay.
he didn't blow somebody out of the water here. But anyway, there is that. And so moving on.
2 grades, Jim. Okay, pass and fail.
That's
it.
true.
A and
100%.
F.
Hey, good. Jerry's here. Hey, Jerry. Good afternoon. The Texas Rangers are a machine. They get a well-deserved rest before Houston. Yeah, the Battle of Texas coming up. It looks like. Although the Twins have something to say about it, we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, and you gotta, we talked about Bruce Bochy a little bit earlier. The fact that he could hold that team together and be successful while at the same time losing Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer is amazing. Now Max might be back. There is some talk that Max could come back for the when they advance further in the playoffs. So that's definitely a possibility. If that is the case, I'm guessing, and it's just that Max will be on one of those really tight pitch counts and probably a 3 or a 4 inning guy. I don't think Max is going to be ready because there's nowhere for him to play. He's going to have to do simulated games because there's not like you can send him to A ball or triple A ball or double A ball to get a couple of starts and just, working on his pitches. So my guess is that they're not going to take any chances. But you're right, Jerry. It's the Texas Rangers at the moment are a machine. And I can get rid of the aces and no offense to. Just want to make sure everybody finds the WNBA tonight. Okay, let me get that banner out of the way. Yep, there we go. All right, so what you got going tonight, my friend? All kinds of fun stuff going on here.
Yeah, so you can check out my premium plays at bigowl.com, pickadvisor.com, and theinsidersroom.com. Go check it out. I have my Conference USA game of the month up for college football tonight. I will have some international soccer up for tomorrow. I do have college football up for all the weekdays, so tomorrow's game and Friday's games, including my Mountain West Conference game of the month. So go get those, and then I'll have tons more international soccer as well as NFL and college football for the weekend.
A little bit of everything. There you go. One from column A, one from column B. Well, we'll be back tomorrow, 2 o'clock, everybody. And we'd like to thank Port Networks, our internet provider, for not screwing it up and putting us in internet hell like yesterday. Everything's going well. And so we will see you guys tomorrow at 2 o'clock. For Amedeus, I'm Jim. Take care, everybody. We'll see you. Take care.